Hey everyone, just a quick note before we start. Today's episode of Separate Bathrooms is a discussion of fertility. If this doesn't feel safe for you to listen to right now, just take a break and join us again next week. If listening to this episode raises any issues for you, we've included links and phone numbers for support in the description of this episode.
I suffered from fertility burnout. You don't even have time to grieve or recover. When you get your period and you realise it's another failed cycle, the next morning you're back in the IVF clinic having blood tests and back on the medicine. So month after month, I was starting to suffer from depression.
Hello and welcome. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to elders both past and present. My name's Brahe-Daddo. This is my wife, Elle, and you're listening to Separate Bathrooms.
Wow.
How about that?
That's an intro and a half.
I don't think I even took a breath.
No, you didn't. You had to get it all out in one.
I guess I did. It's just one of those days. I swam 2 kilometres this morning in a washing machine.
And how many cups of coffee?
2.
2, okay.
Actually, both double shots. So that may be the reason I rammed through that.
Could be.
Ram jam.
Does that mean that's 4 cups? Oh no, I can see where you're at. All right, let's head into this podcast.
Ram jam. Do you remember that? 1975.
Yep.
Giving it away.
Becoming pregnant.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
And starting a family can be an exciting and a seamless process for many couples. But for others, the heartache of getting to the pregnancy stage is a roller coaster of emotions and assisted fertility treatments. Now, currently, 1 in 6 Australian couples actually experience infertility, and more people than ever are seeking the help of fertility specialists to become parents.
Yeah. Now, when we were preparing for this chat, I heard an expert giving the definition of infertility because I was like, what actually is it? The expert said if you're less than 35 years of age and you don't conceive during 1 year of unprotected intercourse, or if you're over 35 years of age, it's 6 months. This is based on the quality of eggs diminishing the older you get. So you should get a consult after 6 months. Channel 9 have been airing a beautiful, enthralling series called Big Miracles, which follows 10 couples on their journey to parenthood. We've been watching it.
Oh, yeah. And I love it. I mean, anything to do with babies, or the attempt for babies or love. I mean, it's just right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Today we have one of the couples joining us in the bathroom.
So Sheila and Tyson met and fell in love on the show not that long ago, actually. We're going to hear all about their journey on the show Big Miracles. Let's bring them into the bathroom. Sheila and Tyson.
Welcome, Sheila and Tyson, to the bathroom. You've both been so open and vulnerable about your experience with IVF for Big Miracles. Are you okay to talk more about that experience and where you are now?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us on, Cam and Elle. It's awesome to be here. Yep, we're definitely open to share entirely about our fertility journey.
Tyson?
Yeah, nothing's off limits.
Oh.
Okay. Everything.
All right. Well, let's start with the juicy bit first.
Yeah.
Then.
I mean, I do want to say just how incredible your story is. And, if anyone hasn't seen the show, that they can go back and download it on one of the apps or something. But it was your story was so moving. So we're so honoured to have you in here to just share a little bit more about it and hear where you are at now. So
I also just want to put a pin in this question. I don't want the answer now, but I want to know how they found you for the show. So we'll touch a bit that later. Let's hear your love story first. How did you meet? What happened? Give us the goss.
So ours is a love in lockdown story.
Oh.
I think people had 2 different experiences during COVID. You were either in a house that was so crowded and you had no privacy and you were overwhelmed, or our experience was I was living alone. I didn't have any pets. The lockdown rules had kicked in and I couldn't see anyone beyond 5 kilometres. And it was in that moment I had an existential crisis and I realised I'm alone in this world and I need to do something about being single and about creating a family. So it was kind of like a crisis met an opportunity. And I got a group of girls together that were in the same boat. And I said, let's do Bumble. Let's get on the dating apps. Let's find a soulmate within 5 kilometres of ourselves.
Yay!
And I created this WhatsApp group and I filled out the profile and I got really intentional. I had a conversation with the universe and I put an order in and Tyson was everything on that order, believe it or not.
Checklist. What did you ask for? What's your list?
I wanted something that was artistic and creative, who was also into adventure, because that hadn't really had both those kind of elements in one person. So I'm artistic and creative, and I'm also into big adventures. Someone truly kind, someone good looking, someone that wanted to have a child with me. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah,
because I'm in my mid-40s by that stage, and that's hard to find. And Tyson was just so much more than I could have ever expected.
It sounds like you were contested on Perfect Match just then.
Yes.
Well, this is what I want.
Am I all those things?
So,
We were a perfect match.
so Tyson, what about you? So you answered the call on Bumble then?
Yeah, I thought it was a fake profile. Sheila's profile was so good. It was everything that I'd always wanted. Do you know, even further than this, from a young age, I always thought I'd marry someone of colour.
Wow.
And through all my life, I'd never met anyone of colour. And then I saw Sheila and I thought, oh, my God. And when we met, there was no hairdressers that were open. So I had 80s hair and Sheila's grey was showing.
Yep.
And our first date was a 4-hour walking date because that's all you could do. Nothing was open.
But we look natural. Like I did have 3 inches of grey hair. Tyson had this big head of hair, no haircut. No eyebrows done, and we just got there and I thought we look like how we look and this can only get better from here.
Yeah, right. And Tyson, what was the first thing about Sheila that you went, wow, when you met her and had that 4-hour walk?
So I had just had a spiritual awakening. Or really, I just contacted the spiritual side of me that I had been ignoring for many years, and Sheila's main thing was her spiritual connection.
Yeah.
I'll go back even further. New Year's Eve, I was hiking near Mount Kosciuszko. I was on 7 days on my own out in the wilderness. New Year's Eve, Sheila was hiking on Mount Kosciuszko. We missed each other by an hour and we're in the middle of nowhere. This was 6 months before we met. We almost met in the middle of nowhere where hardly anyone goes, where we were hiking at the time. Very psychic.
Wow.
So when I was swiping through the photos on Bumble, the first message I said to Tyson was, is that Valentine's hut? I know that hut on Mount Kosciuszko.
Oh, right.
And he replied back on Bumble within 30 seconds and said, yes, I was at that hut on New Year's Eve. And then I said, I was there too. And this is like had a handful of people during COVID. And so my feeling was the universe was kind of getting us ready to meet each other. Synchronicities plays a part, meeting your soulmate.
Yeah, totally.
I think Sheila's smile too, you can't fake a smile.
Yeah.
And Sheila's smile lit up her face.
Yeah.
And I could just see her personality and her kindness and her generosity and her love in that smile. And it was 3 days later, after the third date, we said, okay, this is it. We're moving in 8 weeks.
So 2 months after we met, we moved in together.
That's amazing.
Whose house?
We decided to get a new place and rent a new place.
nice.
So we went searching. Yeah.
That must have been fun.
When you're dating and moving in and planning a life together, like we kind of smashed it all in really quickly. It was fun. It was like we're starting a whole new life.
Yeah.
And we were being pretty brave as well because you don't know how things are going to turn out.
No.
But I think your heart leads and then you let the mind follow.
So your girlfriends must have been like, Sheila, well done.
They were well done, but they also know me. Then they're like, are you moving too fast?
Right.
Oh,
Like, what's
okay.
going on? And I said, no. This is
the real
soulmate
deal.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
Whereas my family, who are a little bit crazy, were like, yeah, of course, do it. Unreal. Moving in after 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was your family that thought too fast for us, where my family went, okay, that's good. That's all right.
Ali was 20. We met. She was 20 when we met. I went to her 21st, sang a really actually I wrote a really goofy song and sung it in front of all these strangers. at her 21st. And then 3 months later, I asked her to marry me. And then we were married. She just turned 22. And I was 26 when we got married. So, yeah, it all happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
You were talking off mic before about soul connections and stuff like that. So I guess your soul knows when it's, even though you have to do the work.
Absolutely.
Your soul knows.
I think the soul knows enough to move you forward. But you got to do the work to behave yourself. You got to do the work to keep your negative thoughts at bay. You got to do the work to have really great communication. Like we've still got to turn up for the other partner and ourselves.
Yeah.
But the heart the whole time's like, yes, keep going.
Yeah.
Sheila's always said when it comes to soul connection that it doesn't matter what you do in life, you're going to meet. You look at Princess Mary. They met at the slip-in during the Olympics. How does that happen? He's on the other side of the world. But that soulmate connection meant they were always going to meet at some point.
Yeah.
When you think about the multitude of permutations that can happen to keep you, like you said about Mount Kosciuszko before, you missed by an hour.
Yeah.
You know, if you hadn't stopped at Macca's or something, or if you hadn't done this, or, you know, if you'd gone for a pee and waited a little, you know, all these different permutations that can happen that stop us or protect us from places and people that we're not ready to be at. I think I've got to trust in that sometimes when I've missed out.
Well, we've had the honour of talking to so many couples, and of course, we always want to know their love story, and it's always incredible, isn't it? Just like how, because I always had this image of like universal spirits, and we're just puppets, and they're just like, no, you move there, like chess pieces, like you're going there because he's coming there, so, or she's going there, so this is where you're going to miss that flight in order to meet her. And it's always fascinating. The last one with Meredith, Gaston and her husband was just Roberto. We interviewed this couple, and like how they met was just wild. Like the chances of it happening was so small, but it just happened to be. So yeah, I feel like, as you said, it was like, okay, you didn't quite meet on that and Mount Kosciuszko, but like Bumble went, no, you got it's all right, we got you.
Yeah. Just be patient. Keep on doing the work.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
maybe we weren't ready then, even though it was only 6 months earlier. I was certainly ready when we met.
Yeah.
And I think we were both in the same place that it felt like we're on ludicrous mode. And ludicrous is in a Tesla, you press a button, it's 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. And that's
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mode called ludicrous mode on the Tesla.
We're going to get one of those.
Yeah. And that's how it felt. We moved in after 8 weeks. We were looking at IVF after 3 months.
Right.
We're engaged after 4 months and then married after 15 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
So had you already started the IVF before you were married? That was already happening? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's how I knew we really were a couple in our first Zoom meeting with Dr. Raywin. Tyson was there and I was on Zoom with him and Dr. Raywin, and I thought, this guy has turned up to an IVF Zoom meeting to discuss how we, move this along, and we'd just known each other for 3 months.
It's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
That's a lot of knowing in your gut right there, isn't it?
It's a lot of fast knowing.
Had you both always wanted children, or it wasn't until you met each other that you went, I want to have children with each other?
I'd always wanted children.
Yeah.
And at 38, that 38's that magical number. I think it's actually a lot younger when you know your fertility window is really going to start to close down. And I found myself single at 38 thinking it's going to take me a long time to meet someone. I don't want to rush and make a mistake. And so I froze my eggs at the age of 38. So in my mind, I thought, I want a family. I just don't know how it's going to happen or when.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready in my 20s like you guys, really had that calling early on. Yeah. I think I put my career first. I think I had to do a whole lot of healing internally and really work on my self-esteem. But I think freezing my eggs at 38 was me saying to the universe, I really want this, just not now.
Yeah.
All right. And Tyson, I watched the doco. You had your sperm checked at about the same time that the eggs were being frozen.
Yeah.
Isn't that trippy?
Yeah. So as a baby, I lost a testicle and I wasn't quite sure if I could have ever had children. So, in my late 30s, I got a test to make sure that I could have children. Yeah. Maybe it was a precursor to Sheila because I I'd never met anyone I wanted to have children with. My folks split up when I was 6, and I see the trauma that my family went through, my brothers and sisters, and unfortunately they repeated that trauma with their kids as well. So I said, you can't predict the future, but I'm not going to go into something when I wasn't quite sure about the person I was going to have children with. And so I never met Sheila. So it only happened till I was 46 that I finally met someone that I really wanted to have children with. Otherwise, I would have done it early. But I really thought that part of my life had passed me by.
Do you both come from big families?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm the oldest of 3 girls.
Okay.
And we're a tight-knit, close family and, Sri Lankan values. And my sisters have had 5 children and all my friends have had children. And it can be quite painful to watch everyone create new families and you're watching on the sideline. I've been aunt many times over. I've been bridesmaid many times over. I've watched everyone move forward with their life. And I always wondered, why not me? Like, what's going wrong here? So, when Tyson came along, that's why the ludicrous mode, I think we've had to fit a decade into a year.
Yeah.
A decade of living into a short space of time.
It was also age. Age wasn't on our side. So when we met, it was like, okay, are we going to do this? Because if we are going to do this, we need to get onto it really fast.
Yeah.
I was 46, Sheila was 45.
Yeah.
The window's starting to close.
Yeah.
But mind you, with our love and the connection that we had, none of it felt fast.
Yeah, that's
it just
right.
felt natural.
Yeah, it felt natural.
right.
You found each other. For those people listening who haven't watched Big Miracles, can you just give us like a little synopsis of your IVF journey to this date?
So, Big Miracles, I guess, follows the IVF journey of 7 couples, and we were one of those couples. And it starts with, us trying to fall pregnant using those eggs that I froze when I was 38. And I swore blue in the face that I was pregnant that day because I'd taken a lot of progesterone after they implant to get my hormones right. And so in the early part of the series, I had my first failure, my first experience of this is not going to work. And I used all those eggs that I'd frozen at the age of 38. So there were no eggs left.
Yeah.
And using my eggs at the age of 45, there was only a 2% chance of success. So we then went on to do 7 more cycles of IVF. And over the 7-8 months. And the series ends essentially with us closing the door on having a child using my eggs. And we've opened the door now to going down the donor egg route.
Yeah.
So we found a donor.
Right.
And we have,
Okay.
in the US,
Wow.
which is it's easier to do, and we can talk about that to help anyone that's listening about late age fertility. And so we're now I'm going to implant using the donor egg.
Are we going to see that on the telly? Are you going to have? Does the show? Is there another series happening?
Yeah.
Season 2, right?
Yeah, we're filming season 2.
Are you doing that now?
They're still following us.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, well, we went to the premiere and everyone was there with babies.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I turned to Tyson when the first episode ended and I just burst into tears and I said, everyone else got babies but us.
Yeah.
We didn't make it. And it's amazing, the whole IVF team and all the nurses and doctors rallied around us and said, we're going to get you there.
Oh my gosh.
So
How did that feel?
Yeah.
really comforting.
Yeah. Do you know, IVF felt like a family, the IVF Australia. They followed us from beginning until end. And so in the early stages, we were part of a documentary, but after a couple of months, we were so strong about our journey that it just felt like they were coming with us.
Yeah.
And so it was just part of our journey and part of our lives. And, you know, we saw some people come out of the IVF clinics and obviously they're devastated.
Yeah.
And then they go to no one or they go to each other. When we came out, we went to counsellors, we went to the film crew, we went to doctors because we're all part of that journey together.
Yeah.
So it felt like we had an IVF family with us.
How was it for you, Tyson, you know, each time that you got the news of no, it hasn't happened and watching what Sheila went through?
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking seeing the person that you love with every ounce of your soul just devastated.
Yeah.
And And we relived it too. So we lived it. And then when we watched it back on Big Miracles, and even though we thought we'd dealt with the trauma and the emotions, everything from the year before, to see it again. And yeah, I'm kind of lost for words in a way, because I love this woman so much, and to see something that we both thought was going to happen first time.
Yeah.
A second time, third time, we were so positive. We talk about motivation and inspiring people, and we were trying to live that. And then when it didn't happen each time, and then to see Sheila go through that, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And how was it for you, Sheila, picking yourself up each time?
You know something? I believe fertility burnout is real. I think I suffered from fertility burnout. You don't even have time to grieve or recover. When you get your period and you realise it's another failed cycle, the next morning you're back in the IVF clinic having blood tests and back on drugs, back on the medicine, the hormone medicine and hormone injections. And it felt relentless. Yeah. So month after month, I was starting to suffer from depression.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when I watched the Big Miracle show, we would cry every episode, and I'd cry as I watched myself cry. Yeah. And I had a low level of depression on the Tuesday that I had to work with. And it's amazing, IVF Australia, the counsellor called me in to check in, because I was reliving all the unprocessed grief that I had to process through, failure after failure, and just watching myself. And I'm feeling emotional as I speak about it, because I had compassion that I went through so much last year and I didn't even stop. You don't get a chance to stop. Because your period and your next cycle comes and you've got to be back on the hormone injections, giving another go. And at our age, every month is another month that's lost.
You've
you get
kicked it
12.
off. Yeah.
You get 12 chances a year.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, we got to go back again and do this.
It was such a gamut of emotions. We go to such high, and you're living in a world of hope. So injections, we hope we get eggs. More injections, we hope they create an embryo, and then we hope it gets implanted. And then I think I went through some anger as well. Like, we're really good people. We're in love, and we create a beautiful family and a beautiful home life for children. Yet we're not falling pregnant. There's people doing bad things in the world falling pregnant. Why? God, universe, why can't we?
Yeah.
I guess in that situation, I can imagine that you are inspiring the viewers, because you're making a cause. You're actually taking action, and nothing happens, as you know, without taking an action. So I don't know. I mean, you're back on the horse again, and we'll be following you along with millions of others and praying for you and just rooting. I was going to say rooting, but that's a bit inappropriate.
It's very American.
We're rooting for you. And whatever happens, because I know that nothing's guaranteed. I mean, that was the first thing about the show, and the doctor on there. Nothing's guaranteed here, but you're having a crack. You're having a good old Aussie crack at it, and it's so inspiring. And I guess if nothing else happens, at the very end of the day, you have inspired others to have a go, because, maybe, and I truly hope that you do get what you want. At least you've had a go, and there are other people that are going to get it, and there are other people that are not going to get it as well. So, but you're having a crack, and that's again, at the end of the day, that's the best thing we can do, is have a go.
That's really insightful. I said to Tyson, why did we go on this show? Like, we didn't get lucky and have a child. And it came to me that our purpose was to show people how to kind of thrive through tragedy and grief, and when things don't work out in your life. And I think maybe our story is the story of relentless pursuit of your dream and not giving up.
Yeah.
And one thing I kept coming back to throughout the journey, and I'm not sure if they showed it too much on Big Miracles, was I kept saying to Sheila, it doesn't matter what happens, we have each other. So we're already winning.
Yeah.
And if you look all your life and you don't find your one that you're really looking for, I don't know how you feel, but I felt that we're already winning. And so now let's try and win some more.
Yeah. Has there been much reaction to you both from the show? Have you had a lot of feedback and a lot of people come up to you?
I've had a lot of women and even men reach out to me on Instagram thanking us for sharing our journey.
Yeah.
Because I think they also needed to see a couple not make it.
Yeah, right.
To validate their own sense of failure or because all the other couples did, and ours has a level of realism.
Yeah.
That we did the 7 rounds and we're still at that point of we don't know what's next. And so a lot of people have reached out, women, you're so brave. How do you keep going? Thank you for sharing your journey. IVF is very silent. It's a very silent experience. It's very private.
Yeah.
And I think, here in Australia, we're quite conservative. I don't think we speak about taboo topics like menopause, infertility, freezing your eggs.
Yeah.
And I think women and men have now had this is a format they can show their families, and their families can have empathy for what they're going through, and maybe a dialogue can start around the dinner table. Yeah. We get it. We see what you've been through. Did you really do that many injections? Yes, I did. What was it like? Did you cry too? Yes, I did. So if this show's been amazing, because I think it's just normalised what is very normal for a lot of women.
Yeah, what did your sibs think about it all? You've come from big families. Your mum and dad are seeing you in these incredible private moments that we don't really get to see that. How are they responding to seeing you in these situations?
My family had an interesting reaction. I think they loved it, but I think watching our trauma, I thought it brought up their traumas as well that they'd gone through. And so immediately it was like they didn't know how to relate to us afterwards.
Interesting.
I think while we were filming it, no one really understood what we were going through because they could see it. And then we filmed our family as well, even though it wasn't shown on the doco. But once we went through the failures, it was almost like I think that's a human reaction for
a lot of people don't know how to
deal with someone who's going through trauma, particularly someone that you love.
Yep.
But after a while, I think they warmed to it and they came round to it. Yeah.
Yeah, my mum struggled to watch it.
Yeah.
She as a mum, to see your own child go through so much hardship, and then she saw us share that with Australia. She found that really difficult. And my sisters too. Yeah. The whole family found it challenging. And my friends didn't realise how much pain I was in.
Yeah.
Because you kind of come up from the depths of despair, especially when you're going through menopause, as you share in your book, Elle. You come up from it, and only when you're through the other side do you start making the phone calls.
Yes.
And then you seem okay.
Yeah.
But when you're in the gutter, when you're in the bathroom floor crying your eyes out, no one's there.
Yeah, you're just avoiding people.
You're just avoiding.
Yeah.
And so, Big Miracles, they captured that moment of a failed pregnancy test. Like, when do you ever capture that moment? That devastation. So they captured it, and then everyone got to see that moment of our crisis. So that was quite eye-opening for a lot of our family and friends.
I had some friends reach out afterwards and go, I had no idea. I knew you guys were filming something, but I had no idea that's what you were going through. I wish you had told me. I wish I would have been there for you. And I guess in a way we kept it to ourselves as well because it was our journey.
And people don't understand truly. I mean, I'm one of them, like the full length of what you physically, emotionally go through with IVF, because as you say, it is relentless. Sometimes you go, oh yeah, it's an IVF baby. Oh, okay, great. You had a baby because you did IVF, but you don't know about the 12 rounds before, the 12, or the miscarriages that may have happened, or, each month not being pregnant. I mean, there's so much that goes on to it. And I think only people who've experienced it actually really understand the grueling challenge that it can be. I know, Sheila, when you, I'm struggling to put this into words because for me it was so emotional and I know I'm going to cry. But when you would look at Tyson and you would apologize to him and say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That was the part for me that was so the depth of that, because it was like you were apologizing for something that you had no control over, but that your body just wasn't doing what you wanted it to do. How is that, watching that back? And is that a really common thing that women go through in IVF, that they have this embarrassment or shame about feeling that their body didn't work as it's meant to?
Yeah, absolutely. You're making me cry now. Because, when I go back into that moment of I did feel like a failure.
Yeah.
As women, we're born with wombs. We're born with reproductive organs. You see women, especially I'm watching women 20 years younger than me pregnant down at the cafe walking around, and I think, why can't I do that? Why won't my body allow me to? Then there's the grief of, why didn't I do it earlier? Why didn't we meet earlier? And Tyson wants to be a father so badly. Every man does on some level, even though they don't talk about it. And in those moments, I thought, I failed both of us, and I can't seem to make my body work. And I think we know it's a universal thing. It's a miracle that we can't control. Yeah. But in that moment, I've turned up to every doctor's appointment. I've done all these herbs and vitamins, and I'm doing the acupuncture. I'm doing everything I can, yet my body is still failing me, and I don't know what to do. Yeah. It's a lot of responsibility. And when people say, just relax, it'll happen in time, and, all those kind of bits of advice from the heart, you just think, I don't know how to relax. Yeah. 7 rounds later, I don't know how to.
Absolutely.
And I teach meditation, I teach spirituality, and I feel like I've learnt so much more in the last year about life and about being a teacher in that space, because on some level you have to surrender to the life that's given to you. Yeah. That's how life works.
Yeah. And with IVF, men have it easy. We don't need to put injections into the body. We don't have the mood swings. We don't have the hormone fluctuations. We don't have the weight gain. We don't have the headaches. Sheila would get these terrible migraines. Yeah. To me, I said on camera, I said, men have one job in IVF. That's to look after your partner. That's it. You don't need to do anything. All you do is go to a facility and leave a deposit. And let's face it, that's a pleasurable experience.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
they actually guys get to have fun during IVF.
Yeah. When is it that women get to have fun?
I'm shutting up. I have nothing to add to this bit. Yeah, it's only going to be crude jokes.
So true. So true.
Yeah. So I found that all my job was to support Sheila in any way, and if that's as simple as cleaning the house, cooking Sheila breakfast, or anything that needed to be done. Yeah. There was another thing about fertility that came up a lot. 50% of infertility is men, and men don't realise that.
Right.
And most men don't go and give a sperm test. Yeah. In fact, very, very few do, and I think there's a bit of shame around that too. Yep. Guys not wanting to understand that they may be infertile. It was always seen as a woman being infertile. Yeah. But we now know it's 50% men. And so we talked about this with an IVF clinic, was trying to encourage men to go and get tests earlier so they know earlier. Yep. I spoke to a couple this morning who they tried 5 years for kids. He went and did a test and realised that they were not going in the right direction. Right. And he wishes he had done it 4 years earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think there was a couple on the show that it was the husband that was that was the issue. I don't want to say issue, but
I think, was it 7 years?
7 years. Yeah. So much shame and guilt comes up during this process because so much of life is outcome oriented. Being successful, having a goal, doing everything and achieving the goal. And here, neither party probably wants to go, I'm the problem. Yeah. Yeah. And how do we get through this in terms of our marriage and relationship? Can we survive this process of IVF? Can we survive? Can a marriage endure not having children? Yeah. What does a marriage look like on the other side of that? It's tough conversations to have, even as older couples like we are. We're a bit more equipped than if you're younger. And I think that's what's so amazing about Big Miracles. It's just allowed more of this dialogue around infertility and just leaning into the conversation and the process.
Absolutely.
But it's also exposing those very private moments like we were talking about before. And then it allows us to go, especially with the people that are going through it and do have any sort of shame those sort of feelings around and guilt, but those sort of feelings, watching other people go through these things that no one usually sees us, it does give us a sense of, or helps us to have some empathy around it and go, oh, I'm not the only one. These guys are doing it, and let's see what they did. How do they get through it? And so it gives it's almost like a directive. And especially when you get, it's great. It really works, I think, when you get people who are diving in, and being vulnerable and open. And to me, that's always been a powerful place to be, because seeing you guys go through it. I really related to you, Tyson. It was after you had 3 eggs to go. It was that incredible natural countdown that was happening, that was creating drama and tension in the episode of just coming from 11 to 8 to, and then you've got 3 and you're going in there on that day to get the implant. You actually don't know how many. I'm telling you your story. But to see the camera got you coming out and you were very vulnerable, and it was just beautiful. There was nothing grandstanding or showboaty. It was just like, here's a man dealing with this situation, with the woman that he loves, and it was so beautiful to watch. And so I would never diminish that example that you gave to men in that moment. They're brilliant.
Thank you.
So what now?
Yeah, tell us about the donor. Like, how did you find her? Can I ask a question though? And hopefully this isn't inappropriate. Did you ever think of using your sister's eggs?
Yeah.
Or is she not of an age that?
They're older. They're over 40 as well.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah. And so the last 2 rounds, we got the eggs tested for defects.
Yours or
right.
theirs?
My eggs
Yours,
tested
yeah,
for
I
defects.
remember that. Yep.
And then they found there were extra chromosomes and things like that.
Yep.
And I had to be sure to close that door, because I was closing the door and having a child that's biologically connected to me,
Yeah.
which is why, on some primal level, we have children.
Yeah.
And so I had to be sure, but I know that love is love, and I know family is family, and it goes beyond love, beyond blood. And so, when I knew that, I thought I can't do IVF anymore using my own eggs. So we've gone with the World Egg Bank, which is an organisation in the US. And how they do it's pretty impressive. So they have all these photos of all these women, current photos. Most women are in their early 20s.
Yep.
So there's a 50% chance of falling pregnant using an egg from a woman who's 20, 21.
Yeah, right.
And it's amazing. They have photos. It's a bit like, we call it Tinder for eggs.
Yeah, of course.
You swipe and look.
It
Yeah.
is.
Egg Tinder.
Yeah. It's got family history,
Family history.
Right, yeah.
genetic makeup.
All these beautiful
Yeah,
selfies.
is there free range? Is there cage free?
Kind of like that, I felt a bit triggered initially. The first time I went on the website, I was feeling there was another woman in our relationship.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And then it took me a few months to kept on going back to the website on my own and looking at these photos. And what's fantastic is we can find a woman of colour over there.
Yeah.
So we've found some African women, African, Native American, Hispanic women we went through. There's one lady who wrote this paragraph describing herself, and I thought I would write that about me.
Okay.
She said, I'm a critical thinker. She's right, she acts, she does a lot of sport, and so she described herself in a way I described me. And I thought, okay, that could be me, a younger version of myself. She had beautiful, she was tall. I thought, well, I'm not tall. So she's tall, and she had a great smile.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we've got to allow the universe to kind of work its magic. So out of we shortlisted to about 5 donors, and then she was our choice.
Oh,
okay.
amazing.
Yeah.
You went there.
Yeah, because the hard thing in Australia, it's only by donation.
Okay.
So you can't buy eggs in Australia. You can't buy
Right.
any human tissue. So
Yeah.
you go on these sites and you're waiting for someone to donate to you. And then when someone does donate to you, normally in Australia, they're a little bit older. They've already had kids.
Yep.
And they want to give back. So you don't have any choice over who comes your way. And in a way, it's like you're just waiting.
It's so hard in Australia.
Yeah, okay.
You've got to get chosen. It feels like you're courting each other and you're getting to know each other.
A little bit desperate too. You're on these sites. You're trying to sell yourself as the person that someone's going to give their eggs to you.
Yep.
And what's going to make you stand out to the next person, which kind of is like a job interview.
Yep.
So here, well, in the States, you can just go to the bank and
You can buy.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
You can buy eggs.
Okay.
Yep.
Here it's altruistic. You're not allowed to pay.
Okay.
Can I ask how much?
Yeah, it's 30,000 Australian dollars for 6 eggs. with a guarantee of one viable embryo. So the eggs
They
get
guarantee you
one viable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a guarantee.
Yeah, so
of
when
one
they
will
fly
get
the eggs out, we don't know if they survive.
Yeah.
So when they thaw them here, you could lose all of them. You
Yeah.
could get all 6 or you could lose. And then they still need to mix them with me to
Yep.
create an embryo. And then none of that to guarantee either. However,
And then if none are viable, it's $30,000 is not.
We can choose another donor and do
Oh,
the
I
process
see.
again,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I'm given a chance of having one egg implant.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so one chance.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
The thing about
yeah.
buying it, though, it feels like there is a bit of control for us.
Yeah,
If we're just
sure.
on a site waiting for someone to give an
Yep.
egg to us, it does feel like we do have a bit of power. We
Yep.
can do it next week. As long as you've got the money,
Yep.
you can do it next week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, were you part of like finding the donor as well, Tyson as well? I know it was really
started it.
important too.
I started it.
Ah,
Sheila
okay.
said, "Can you just take the lead on this?" And then I went,
So
right,
I was
okay.
like, this is too emotional. I
Yeah,
said, can you
sure.
just log in and create the profile and start this? Because I was finding it really emotional going on the
Yeah.
websites and putting our profile out there after what I'd been through. So Tyson actually took the lead.
So we're on four different websites for egg
Yep.
donation,
Yep.
and yeah, I started them all.
Oh gosh. And when are you thinking of doing this?
Yeah.
When's the
Yeah.
donor all happening and when are you?
How soon?
We're signing the contract, I think, this week and making payment. And then the little eggs get flown out, and that takes 6 weeks to fly out, or 3 weeks to fly out, and then we've got to go through the process again,
Yeah,
the fertilization
okay.
process. We're away in the US in June, so we're hopefully doing the implant in July. So
Are you just
hopefully,
going to have a holiday, or are you doing something else? over
I'm
there?
running. I'm speaking, so I'm a keynote
Yeah.
speaker,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I've written my book, so Brave. So I'm doing some book clubs over in the US.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And that's the thing with IVF. You can't slow down your life. You can't put everything on pause. And we planned this trip last year. And then even a month ago, I said, do we cancel it? What do we do?
Yeah.
And we agreed as a couple, no, we've got to go forward and do that. And so, yeah, when we get back, and we've even timed the flights so that my period starts when I get back.
Yeah, right.
So we're coming back a little earlier so we can catch the July cycle.
Yeah,
God, it's amazing.
July cycle. It feels like there's
Ah.
so much waiting. We had to wait for my genetic test to come back.
Yep.
And then instead of taking 4 weeks, they took 8 weeks. So
Mm.
now we're waiting. And now we were ready a month or two ago, but just with the paperwork and everything to go through, now it's another month.
So
And then-
when you say genetic testing, what is?
Oh yeah, so
What's that
I needed to do a full genetic count of about 250 different genetic defects to make sure that they don't match the woman that we're
Okay.
choosing. Because if say diabetes comes up,
Amazing.
then the chances are your child's going to have diabetes.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I did find out that I'm predisposed to Parkinson's.
Okay.
So I have a 10% chance of getting it, which I guess is good to know, but you only know that if you go and get a genetic test.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a requirement in Australia that you have to do a genetic test because they have to as well.
The Americans do?
Yeah,
Okay.
whoever the potential donor
They get
is.
tested for like 200 different markers, genetic markers. So it's a really thorough process.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's all on the website so you can see everything that's
Everything.
there.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, even
see-
before you choose the donor, you
Sure.
can see their genetic report.
Yeah.
You see their parents, the parents' jobs, their height, their description, their grandparents, how their grandparents have passed away. Like it's like this interesting, I don't know, you're reading all this information about this person, before you buy the eggs. And even still then, we still don't know. Like you don't know.
Sure.
you know.
Are you going to go at the airport when they arrive in Sydney and like wave them in like
Hold a flag.
Come the eggs.
flag? Hi baby,
Welcome.
you're my future kids. Come on
right.
down.
Like Ancestry, isn't it? Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
But eggs.
I've thought of that, and I'm hoping. I think at 18 they're allowed to find out who the donor is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we looked at other clinics. We looked at Greece.
Yeah.
We looked at South Africa. There's a place called Cape Fertility.
Yeah.
Some in Greece, you're not allowed to select the donor. They select the donor for you. In South Africa, you can select the donor, but you don't see photos of them now. You see photos of them as a 5 or 6-year-old. Every country has a very different process.
Interesting.
The USA seems to be the most thorough process.
Okay. That's so exciting.
I need to bring this up because Ali and I are both interested in this. Sheila, you're a psychic as well.
I am.
So Does that play into any part of this, or does it work better? Your psychic abilities work better on other people as opposed to yourself?
Look, I think my intuitive abilities and abilities as a medium definitely feel easier for other people because I'm not attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't a full body knowing that I'm going to have children. And Tyson and I've experienced ayahuasca in Peru. I've sat with shamans and done, expansive medicines overseas. And
Does that mean mushrooms and things like that?
psilocybin journeys, ayahuasca. Yeah. I've sat with shamans. I've trained with shamans.
Riding a horse backwards,
Absolutely. There's more than these dimensions here. There's more than this, what we see in, this third dimension. And on one journey, I saw that I have 2 children. Like in this one journey, they said, this will happen for you. So I have a full body knowing I will have children. I'll have a family. I just don't think, and I've always had a knowing, Cam, it wouldn't happen conventionally. Because none of my life has been. I was an ex-finance director that had this spiritual awakening. I studied Buddhism and Vedic philosophy. I wrote a book about being brave in life and following your spiritual path. So my life hasn't been conventional. So I always knew I'd meet my partner late in life. And even when I met Tyson, I just thought we're going to have an interesting journey together. And so when we were asked to go on this show, I thought, okay, here's another interesting opportunity, journey from the universe, and let's just see what transpires. So I've learned to not be attached to what it looks like. Yeah. As someone who's intuitive, I have dreams, I can feel a soul of a child around me. A lot of my friends are highly intuitive and they'll say, I can feel a girl in your auric field. And that's what happens. The soul tends to come in and be around you a little bit like Mount Kosciuszko, Our souls were hovering near each other. It happens.
And Sheila had a dream or a vision of a blonde-haired little girl going, Mummy, Mummy, Mummy. So when we went to Donor Egg, we thought, oh, wow, maybe that's part of the vision.
Yeah.
You're blonde, though.
Yeah.
He's full, yeah.
Was.
Still pretty blonde, mate.
Yeah.
Not
too many greys. Not yet.
Greys are okay.
Greys are great.
Greys are lovely.
Greys are distinguished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Absolutely.
They missed a spot with me.
Tyson, what's your advice for people out there who are in their 40s or older and feel like they might never meet the love of their life?
Ooh, big question. The first thing you need to do is work on yourself.
Okay.
Because if you're not yourself, you won't meet your love of your life. You've probably not done that. And I can only relate this to myself, is I thought I'd worked on myself. And so I kept meeting people who were not right for me and then staying in that, thinking that it's going to change. But I had a deep knowing every time that it was never right. And then eventually when everything finished and I had a good, solid, hard look at myself and I was honest with myself and did that inner work, and then I met Sheila, and then there was no doubt in the world. So I would say the first thing is, as a man, you need to be honest. You need to be fit. You need to be healthy. You need to be spiritual. You need to understand your faults and your feelings and your emotions. You need to be vulnerable is probably the biggest one. And you need to be kind. I think kindness is the biggest one. Yeah. Once you really find kindness, I think that's when you'll meet someone.
I love that. That is great advice. Fantastic.
And Sheila, you've been through an incredible amount. What's your advice to anyone embarking on an IVF journey?
My advice is that you're embarking on a journey of courage and bravery, and allow this journey to evolve you. Allow this journey to become the mother that you need to become. So this journey actually softened me. I had to start taking care of myself so much more. Every time I had a failed IVF attempt, I had to grieve and have so much compassion for myself. So I truly believe an IVF journey is a journey of your evolution into a new version of yourself. Fertility burnout's real. So if you need to take a pause and a break, do so. At one point, Tyson and I had separate holidays. We hit a wall after 4 cycles, and I went on an all-girls surf retreat to Bali, and Tyson went to Tasmania to do the overland track, and we just went our separate ways for 2 weeks because just the depression and anxiety was overwhelming myself. So take care of yourself when you're feeling burnt out, and just know that wherever you're meant to go, you'll go. don't give up. Like, we've gone to the donor cycle. If this doesn't work, we will look at surrogacy.
Yeah.
We will look at, other options. We're kind of relentless. And I think with your dreams, you can't give up.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why we wake up in the morning, because we hope. We hope for something new to come into our life. We hope that our dreams will come to fruition. So I just want to congratulate any woman and man out there starting on their IVF journey, because it's actually an empowering journey if you let it be.
Yeah.
I'll go even further. You've got to remember why you're doing it in the first place. It's not just I want to be a father. I want to have a family. And I met a woman I wanted to have a family with. So even with the tragedy and the trauma that you go through, come back to why you're doing it in the first place, which is because you love each other and you want to have a family. Yeah. I think we can get caught up in our own emotions quite a lot, which is only natural. But we kept coming back to each other. And I think that's how we got through a lot of the challenges. God, you're beautiful. You really
Thanks,
are.
mate.
He's so romantic. Yeah. It's not even funny.
It's so beautiful.
He's so I've married the most romantic man on earth. So lucky.
Good for you.
The second.
It's really embarrassing. I thought he was looking at me when he was saying that, and I blurted out my answer too fast. Hey, you mentioned the word soften, and that's what I was thinking about when you were talking. Just prior to that, when you're talking about kindness. And kindness is this lovely way of softening and allowing things to come in and go out, So it was just a beautiful synchronicity there from you both.
Yeah.
Oh, what an inspiring
I think for
inspiring
men,
chat with you
particularly
too.
Australian men, I think they confuse strength with toughness.
Yes.
And I think being vulnerable and kind is the biggest strength you can have as a man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's so, I mean, I don't know. I know we're going to agree on this, Sheila, but as a woman, it is the most appealing thing about a man is their vulnerability and kindness. It's not if they can lift weights. It's not if they can, got a six pack. It's not if they're a CEO. It is those two things, the kindness and gentleness of a man, and the vulnerability, being able to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't fake that.
You two were the oldest couple on the show, but you're still younger than us, so you're youngies to us. Was there any kind of stigma or sort of people making comments about your age, going, well, you're at an age now that you should stop trying, or maybe it is too late? Or did you ever have any words or feedback like that from anyone?
On Facebook, there was some interesting comments about, there always is, and I just stopped reading them.
Yeah.
Not many. Most people were truly compassionate for our plight because, look, as a woman, I did invest a lot of time in my career, and I had some trauma from my childhood to heal. And what happens if that takes a long time?
Yeah.
What happens if you meet your soulmate in your 40s? What happens if you want to start a second family, meeting a second soulmate in your 40s? Life has its own destiny for you. And I went on the show thinking, we're going to be that couple that falls pregnant in our 40s and show that it can be done.
Yeah.
And that was my ego. And interestingly enough, I think we went on the show to show people sometimes life is tough. And whether it's infertility or a job loss, a redundancy, a divorce, financial ruin, we don't kind of escape life without these tragedies. And so I think we end up showing people, don't ever give up on your dreams. And it might be hard to get there, but, persevere regardless of what everyone thinks. Keep everyone's opinions away.
Right.
It's never too old or too late to do anything.
Absolutely.
And I think people are having kids later and later in life.
They are, yeah.
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 And I think one thing that I think Sheila showed is that freezing your eggs probably much earlier as an insurance policy to not meeting the right person or having a career and then not having the health of your eggs.
Yep.
There was a couple on there who froze their eggs at 32. And I think that was probably one thing that we talked about.
Just for, someone that's not, doesn't have a lot of money, but wants to freeze their eggs, is it expensive? Do you have to pay rent?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is and can anybody do it, or I mean, is there government assistance for someone who wants to, like if a 25-year-old wants to freeze their eggs but they don't have the money?
I think there is now. I think there is definitely assistance now. When I did it, it was $13,000, so I had to save a few months of my pay.
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money, yeah. And I was a manager back then, so I could afford it. But I was investing in that, not nice clothes or a new car.
Yeah.
Like it was a big investment. Then you had to pay the rental fee that you pay every year. It's okay. It's the upfront cost.
Yeah.
Look, even on our journey now, we've refinanced our mortgage. You know,
Yeah.
we're having to think about how do we make this work. We haven't even had kids yet. Like having kids is expensive. So the process of creating kids has been quite expensive.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's about priorities and finding a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
And in truth, it probably is a luxury to do IVF. Like it is an economical
It is.
reality
Yeah.
that you need to face.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Well, it's been an amazing chat. We do finish up our amazing chats
With a
short shower. So keep your answers short because we like to conserve water. Both answer the question, okay? So what's your best quality?
You go first.
No, you first.
Listening apparently isn't my best quality. I think my best quality is I'm optimistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kindness.
There you go.
Who do you admire?
Sheila.
I admire any woman that is following her purpose in life, regardless of the challenges she's experienced. So I don't really have one person.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of women, even in my coaching business. So anyone that's fearless, I admire.
Yeah.
So I admire Sheila for loving me and opening up a heart centre in me that I never thought possible.
Is there a moment in your life that you would like to revisit?
How many?
A moment.
Yes, there's many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go first. I'm thinking of my moment.
This is the moment.
I'll go first. Truly, I've had so many crazy wild adventures in my life. I've had a bit of a wild life, I'd say. The best day of my life was our wedding day. I could do that day again and again and again. And there's been a lot that's happened for sure, but I just felt like I was exuding a level of love in my life and having every loved one there, marrying the love of my life, knowing we were trying to create love through a baby. I know these answers are short, Cam, I'm sorry.
It's all good. You go, Sheila.
Our wedding day, I would revisit again. Like if I had a Groundhog Day, it would be that
would
day,
be it.
100%.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a lot of ego when I was younger, as we all do in our 20s. And there was a couple of moments there that my life may have taken a different path.
Right. Do a bit of a
My
redo.
ego overtook.
Yeah. What does your perfect day look like?
My perfect day is spending it with Tyson, doing some crazy adventure outdoors, starting with a cup of coffee, reading a book in bed firstly, then getting, out the door into nature and doing something pretty physically challenging. Like we kind of do big 4-hour hikes and abseiling and canyoning and things like that around
Wow.
the surf. So we like to sweat it out for a good few hours.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done paragliding? Like jumping off the thing and off a cliff and paragliding?
No.
They do it at Longreef.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Amazing. There's something to
That's
do.
something we could do together.
Yeah.
After you have a baby.
How about you, Tyson?
Perfect day. Start with a meditation on the beach, and then we swim and surf, and then we'll go for a scuba dive afterwards, and then we'll have some wine at lunch, and then we'll climb a mountain in the afternoon,
Yep.
and then we'll finish it off at the theatre.
Beautiful. Done.
Wow. That's a day.
What a day.
That sounds I can't wait for our next date day.
All right. Last question. Your partner in one word.
Sensational.
Incredible.
You two are.
Yeah, you really are. Thank you so much for your time today. I mean, my gosh, just wishing you the best on your journey. You will be parents, that I have no doubt. However, it turns out you will absolutely be parents and you will be amazing parents and lucky the child who calls you mum and dad. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us, and thanks for your kindness and your generosity, and thanks for your such warmth. You guys exude beauty together and warmth.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for letting us share our story, and thank you for your authenticity. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I cannot wait to hear about their journey. We will get them back in when they become parents.
And how fortunate for those kids, or their child, that gets to see that journey
Yeah.
on. It'll be on
That's so
a
true.
thumb drive, and go, look what we did.
Look what we did
to make you to get you here.
Yeah. The most beloved to all of that. Some people just fall pregnant straight away, and then others go through a hell of a journey, and sometimes it doesn't happen for everyone. But it's so beautiful and inspiring to hear the both of them talk and about the love that they have for each other.
Indeed. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Separate Bathrooms too. Please rate and review us if you get a chance, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening.